Does Mormonism stifle creativity? Hey everyone, I'm Matthew, and I just want to give a brief little story about my own life and my thoughts on this question. So when I was growing up, I really wanted to play this game as a kid. I saw it at GameStop. It was called Turok. It was rated M. And my parents, said, no way, we're letting you play an M-rated game. Not allowed in our household. And so as a kid, I felt frustrated because it looked so cool. It had dinosaurs on it, and I loved dinosaurs. So I went to Google at the time. I typed in game maker. Let me make my own game. And ever since then, I have been a very obsessed and creative individual. I have been involved in making and designing video games. I released my very first video game ever just 3 or 4 months ago now, called The Feathered Serpent. I have multiple YouTube channels. I've loved editing videos, special effects. I've dabbled in 2D animation, 3D animation, modeling, sound design, music design. I would consider myself a very, very creative individual. That being said, and all of that being established, when I was growing up, before I deconstructed Mormonism and my belief system, I actually very consistently and constantly felt guilty for the types of media that I was drawn to. I personally love gore and violence and cool action sequences. I remember making videos with my friends, and there was one occasion we had made a video and we were fighting aliens. I had some 3D models of aliens. I figured out how to chroma key them or green screen them onto footage, and I used like red cream soda, A&W red cream soda, for the blood, and we would spit up the blood. And I remember showing it to my dad. I was so excited. I mean, this editing, music, visuals. And the only thing he said is, hey, I don't think you should make those videos anymore. He says, that's too much. The blood's too much. Don't be making that kind of video. Another example with my father is when I was really into videos. He asked me, sat me down one day. He's like, what do you want to do when you're older? I said, hey, well, I'm making videos is pretty cool. I like editing stuff. He said, maybe you should reconsider because the videos you're going to end up making when you're older aren't going to be very good. And he didn't mean in the sense of like, you're not good at making videos. He meant like, you're going to end up editing videos and looking at naked people and having to edit things that aren't, appropriate, is what he was getting at. And I just remember feeling crushed as a kid, I didn't make videos after that for a while. And really, ever since then, up until recently, I seriously wrestled with the question of, do I need to incorporate gospel principles into my creative works? And everything should be framed in this way of, hey, if it's not pointing me towards God, what's the point? There's no meaning or value in it. Even video games, I felt for a long time, man, I remember being a kid, man, I don't want to go to heaven because I won't be able to play T-rated video games. I loved Warcraft Frozen Throne. And I just remember feeling like, I don't want to go to heaven because I won't be allowed to play Warcraft. And that game's so much fun to me. I would play it for hours and hours every day. And ironically, I loved the map creator in that game where you could make your own versions and your own game modes. And so I really wrestled with this question my whole life. It really stifled me, I think. Anything that I made, I would feel either guilty because I couldn't, it wasn't uplifting, it was too bloody, it was too violent, it didn't have the plan of salvation in it, I didn't have enough nods or references to the gospel. So that's one way that I feel like it stifled me. Now, the second way that I want to touch on here, I just had the thought come to me, is how, there's the meaning part. If it's just a video game, if there isn't any gospel principles in it, what's the point of it? I think this is framed around the whole like talents in the ground. If you have talents, you need to build up the kingdom with them. The reason I'm so creative and good at doing these things is because God wants me to use those for the kingdom. And it just really dampened, everything that I wanted to create growing up. But the second thing that I'll say, the second way that Mormonism really stifled my creativity and hurt me was I genuinely felt, for example, working on my game, that it would not be successful unless I was worthy. if I felt like I wasn't living up to gospel standards, if I ever felt like, you know what, I messed up this week with something, or I lied to that person, I feel bad, or I'm not reading my scriptures, I'm not as connected with God as I'd like to be, I genuinely felt like my creative ventures would all fail. I think this is linked more to like prosperity gospel, like, oh, if you'll prosper in the land if you live the commandments. And I really wrestled with that too, of being like, dude, there's no point of working on my creative projects because I'll be punished if I'm not worthy. They'll be punished. And I remember for the longest time, I would never work on my creative project on Sundays for a long time. I just didn't, because in the back of my mind, I was like, if I work on this on a Sunday, I won't be successful when it releases. God will punish me for working on the Sunday, and it won't be successful. And so I just remember, instead of working on that creative project and letting my creativeness out, having that outlet, there's just Sundays where I would just play games or veg out on my phone or watch a show, rather than be creative and work on something, because in my mind, all these things are going on. So I think those two things put together, unfortunately, really killed a lot of my passions early on. And I've been trying to revive them in my adulthood. And I've been trying to work through those things. And I just feel so much better having the freedom now to let go of those negative thoughts and behaviors and to just create things. It feels so liberating. And I'm really sad for the me in the past and for all the damage that caused me. I mean, I just don't think it's okay. Doing things creative is an outlet. It helps you process things. And I need help processing things in my life. So that's my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, anyone who's creative out there who has felt some of the things that I've touched on here today, because I think it's fascinating that that's how I felt in regards to creative works, and how that can change so radically when you let go of those ideas. And now I do feel, hey, my art and my work and my games do have meaning, and they don't have to fit into a box, and they don't have to conform to these strict standards, and I shouldn't feel guilty about them, and I can work on them how and when and where I want. That's it for today's video, everyone. Thank you. I will be uploading more parts of my Light and Truth rebuttal very soon, and I appreciate the engagement and interaction. Have a wonderful day.